So I was just showering, thinking about how fucked I am, honestly, because I was showering because my ass is not okay. Oh my god. Oh my god. Anyway, so that's a nice intro. That established. Just like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna be. I don't want to say. I don't want to voice it. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, well, if I voice it, then I almost like materialize it. Maybe I'm like feeding into things that I envision, not realizing the currents that I'm focusing. Like I'm focusing a current in a location, like like my ass. Like it's like when it's like right before my research started to occur. Basically, I was just going about my life, and I was like, I cannot. I cannot sleep because my ass itches. Not like a cleanliness thing, like an internal continuous thing that especially was like at night and has been going on for like 8 years, where every time I see a doctor they take my money and then casually don't assist anything whatsoever and pretend like that was like a good way of doing life. And then I just don't have medical insurance and all these things where I'm just like hopeful but dying, I'm pretty sure, honestly. But maybe because I'm focusing into being like, I'm pretty sure I'm dying. I'm pretty sure I'm dying. I'm pretty sure I'm dying. Just like focusing, this drilling in until it like punctures the mantle. And then it upwells. And I think I maybe punctured the mantle at some point in the process where it's upwelling, and I'm kind of like, now I'm adding to it by saying that, though, which is by saying like the doom shape is a thing and like reinforcing that to the general public. Consciousness will then make us mentally, being God as all as a collective, like begin to manifest things that are only because we're one and one being just living like a collectively chosen life. And if like collective mind is persuaded, but with these staggering S's represent to something that maybe it's not like inherent, but more which the something that would be like suggesting it to be would it like be suggesting it to be. Oh yeah, it's inherent. It's inherent that this will happen. See, look at all the evidence. That is a lot of evidence. Then we all consciously start to like feed into and carve the channels, and next thing we know, puncture some reality where this South Atlantic anomaly begins to become a little more anomalous. So with those things in mind, I was thinking about that kind of thing, and I was like, well, maybe also I think like the solution to my health issue is a better habits, like feed. Basically, I've been feeding all this current, all my focus, my like the energy within me, stored within me, has been fed into this kind of thing, where I'm like looking at these currents, just, and then this one goes like this, and this one goes like this, and this goes like not putting any attention to myself as I'm just like, pardon me. I mean, it's just true though. It's not really that funny because it's true, and I'm like genuinely reaching like a point in realization that it really is just true and not funny true, but just true. Uh, but anyway, I'm thinking that if I kind of do the opposite and take my focus, it's not like it's like the story's over. I still got like a polygonal boundary. I still got some sort of like focus, and maybe if I just kind of like prevent the flow outward more so, and start to like build a boundary to my around myself, that kind of close myself in, stop being so focused out here, start building a boundary of like here, and generally more so here, but especially here, like focusing on me, which I think is what really all along everyone should be doing, to a point where like people get so far ahead that they can begin to lift others up like easily, where it's not so energetically of a concern. We're like, well, to lift you up would cost me a lot, and I literally genuinely cannot, so we won't. And that's the problem, is we're like in a low energy state where we can't just easily, generally speaking, not speaking for everyone, but generally speaking, there is a tendency. I'm just noticing this like lobe thing with a negative like divot, and the positive Appalachian Mountains kind of continues through here and is broken apart by this inflowing like cross current that backflows. So there's a flow generally across here that then has the backflow like create a sort of shallogram feature in here too. So creating shallogram like features of different magnitudes, maybe. Like this one is more near like the I'm not sure. I don't want to get too distracted where I forget what I was actually like thinking about in the shower, besides my health. Was essentially I've been talking about. It's kind of funny. I feel like a slave then. I'm like, okay, I guess my health isn't genuinely like that. I need to just keep pushing on. Just keep pushing on. Someday it'll work out. Wait, I'm fucking dying. Fucking assholes. Maybe I don't know, because I don't have money to like check in doctors or casuals. Fuck, it's fine. They haven't seen me recently, but you know, they don't actually. They just take your fucking money and like pass you on and start you into this long, drawn out process of taking your money, and maybe somewhere along the line, like figuring out, rather than like fucking, you have this problem, this is our focus until the problem is gone, and then you fucking pay us because we didn't do anything otherwise. We just talked to you, we looked at you, good for you. It's a little abusive, dudes. Just speaking from experience, I don't know if you guys are aware, because you get so much profit from it, that even that you yourself experience the process, you can pay for it, so it doesn't affect you the same. Just a heads up. Any doctors out there who are like, what do you mean? Oh yeah, oh yeah, I guess I do like profit from it enough to like not have the adverse effects affect me in the way that affects most people. Yeah, and maybe the same can go for me. But like, I'm fucking not really. Am I profiting? Maybe in the long term, where like I have like statues made, but like, am I alive in the time? Do I get to be alive? Because I feel like the trade-off isn't even close. Like, I'm not even experiencing, because I fucking die doing this. In life, the reality is, yeah, after you fucking die, guess what? You kind of like resonately don't experience until you're reborn again at some point, and maybe that's like exactly at like actual rebirth. So like the next time I experience is like childhood again, maybe. That would kind of fucking suck, dudes. So then like whatever future happens after this, then I look back on like, it's just this like resonance of the Bible and things, where they're like, oh, maybe we should like appreciate what that dude did. So that when he's reborn, he can do it again. And isn't that fucking sad to realize he's condemned to that fucking reality? Because we're all fucking arrogant assholes who won't actually acknowledge a greater truth. Maybe not the absolute truth, yeah, but a greater truth. than society currently acknowledges. So anyway, with that a little, maybe that like negative void bullshit that I've been accumulating inside of me because of it just being fucking what I'm dealing with. And I'm not allowed to speak of it because it's, oh, you're complaining, you're just trying to get your needs met. Fucking dumbasses. Yeah, I'm fucking dying, you assholes. Wait, I watch people fucking sit there casually have conversations. Casual ass conversations about shit they already talked about that they take forever to get into, getting all these fucking donations. $250. Thanks so much for fucking whatever it is going on here. While we don't even acknowledge. Fuck. Anyway. That's my fucking life. Not to pick on the most recent experience, because this is a long line of just fucking dismissal, where people just, even if they talk to me for a time, they choose, oh, no, not this dude. Next. And as soon as they have that thought, anytime I reach out, it's like I don't exist. Okay, then. Well, guess what? Fuck you. You guys are fucking assholes, and I'm gonna go ahead and put a good substantial amount of responsibility on the casualness of shit where I reach out to people who are in positions of power, and what do? They just, meh. Yeah, it sounds like maybe you feel that way, but I'm not convinced, so I'm not even gonna. Not this way, bruh. Move along. And I move along, then fuck you. Enjoy whatever fuck future you have. I don't care now. Because it looks like I might just die, get reborn again to be the fucking stupid asshole to do all the fucking heal the stupid world of its stupidity, pretty much. Wake it up. Wakey. And then fucking die in the process. Ring the bell. Fucking explode into oblivion. Realize I'm everyone, maybe. And everyone remembers being me, and that's fucking sucked. Realizing that I was that asshole. The ultimate asshole. Sure, we're all assholes. He's right about that, but he's the fucking epitome. That's why. Look at his problem. It's an inflamed asshole in ways that I don't even know, because I don't know about it, but it sounds fucking not pleasant. You know, almost like you can't do anything kind of pleasant. Not good. Really just fucking in a rut. Maybe representative of that a rut was dug from some sort of current flow. Maybe again though, reflective of just my focus was there, because I was concerned. I'm like, shit, I don't have money. I quit my job. I'm taking a risk. I quit a job. I was making $100,000 a year working from home. No one gives a shit. Took out my retirement. People are like, you took out your retirement? I'm like, yeah, I took out my fucking retirement. What the fuck do you think I did? Just immediately started hoping people would do shit and living as a fucking leech. No, I've burned through everything I had, and now I'm a fucking leech that you look at and say, what a fucking leech. While I fucking solve the world's problems and die for it. And just awaken. Oh my god, the beauty, the rainbows. Look at all the rainbows. Look at all the colors. Just the beauty in the world. If I ain't here to experience it, you motherfuckers. You guys get to fucking ride that wave. Oh wow, look at all the discoveries we're making subsequent to the actual substantial discovery. You know, like the inventive concepts, essentially, that like subsequent patents just amend the event. Oh yeah, plus this, plus this, plus this, and then it starts to become like a like plate tectonics plus this, plus this, plus this, but it's really like built on some foundational nucleus. Like all this shit that comes after this nucleus that just got boom dropped into our fucking worldview when it finally makes it in, whether I'm there or not. It's also ultimately tied to my actions. So, you know, it seems some fucking thanks would be due, but apparently I'm too blunt and too honest even in that way. I'm like, oh, here's the truth also in ways you guys don't like to hear. I know you guys like to hear all this cool stuff, but then I point out this shit you don't like to hear. It's cross the line, bro. Cross the line. Next. I wasn't feeling it enough. I didn't appreciate it enough. I was too casual about it not realize that you were on to some shit. Fucking. So, you know, when you went and did those things, enough is enough. Next. You're gonna have to change, bro. Then you can get some energy. Just fucking cut me off. The world just one after another cut me off. Sure, I did it back, and maybe I did it forward. But it's a learned thing. It's not like I just immediately started cutting people off in that way. Immediately be like, these motherfuckers, they ain't even listening. But they're judging like motherfucking shit. I see. Pardon me the ways I do it, because I know today I was just said keep going. Someone said keep going, which I appreciate because they actually see my work. They're like, you know, like mention my work with Graham Hancock's and Randall Carlson. So I'm like, nice. That people are seeing the relationship that there's. Like, we're kind of seeing things that are not seen yet. Not just seeing things, but seeing things that are not yet seen that are there. That I've talked about in depth. But in the meantime, I don't know what's gonna happen. I was thinking about just going and then creating a void. But then I'm like, maybe I was thinking that, like, what if I just start taking debt on and go to doctors? Yeah, doc, I'm just gonna come in and accept this system as it is. Or you guys just fucking take whatever the fuck and maybe help me. It doesn't matter if you help me for 100% certainty to interact with you. You're gonna fucking take from me. But are you gonna fucking help? Unclear. Unfucking clear. I'm noticing also there's kind of like a circle here that's generally like a big hexagon center here. That maybe like the general cross current created a hexagon type shape here. Because essentially it's being drawn back to go like in loops. Maybe that created like a hexagon here and then this triangular extension here. This is probably how currents interact in a lot of ways, just to point it out right now because this is common. This may be something of this nature related to Mount Grenard. Okay, but before this is 18 minutes. Anyone who wants to know the inventive concept maybe that I'm thinking about, thanks for listening. If you made it through this far, then you probably listened this far, unless someone told you, like, here, check out 1854 of this clip and see this part where he talks about this. Then maybe you avoided all that that just happened, but maybe not. So I've been thinking a lot about this concept of like resonance and how they go out of frequency, where there's a boundary, that the boundary starts to go out of frequency and then it bubbles into an actual, this is going to go out of frequency and then it's going to open and just bubble. And I had this thought, what if we could have like a single emission point here that goes this way at a certain frequency, and then maybe another emission that goes this way at a certain frequency, where those frequencies are aligned so that they create a stable boundary, and then in some way causing like maybe compression, like physically moving them in a way that then causes a destabilization in a range of that band, but like generally they are, maybe it's possible. I don't know how much control over beams of waves we have, where we could like create like a complex wave out of a beam to like cause like a portion of it to go out of sync. Because effectively then, like if we could do that, we could create particles here. Like this is pretty much a particle. Like if we watch over here, it's about to blow here, and noticeably when it does that, like it severs, we see it fold in there, but this portion's about to bob up. Did it bob up? Bob down. I guess it just went down. Interesting. Okay, because I'm gonna compare that to something real quick. These, like here, pretty much all of these nova centers, like over here, like I'm not allowed to be honest about that. I have to just kind of play it cool and pretend like, yeah, it's fine. You guys take your time. It's a hilarious reality. You guys take your time and figure out if I have something to say worth like acknowledging that I've been saying it for 8.5 years, and adding on to a point where it's like, the thing is like to open that door is pretty much, it's kind of like to allow the mantle hole to be punctured, like then this torrent comes flowing out because there's a lot of information that's just been building up inside, under the surface, because not at the surface. At the surface is like the surface story that like is told, where like the news is people talking or like saying things like on the surface, like this is what this, like more surface level conversation is occurring. Like this dude, his parents bought a Bahamas vacation home. Okay, Erdogan friends, like this is the kind of surface conversation. There's no conversation whatsoever about what I'm talking about. No mention of my research on the surface because it's underground, just like this underground sciences. But it's like the current that has been flowing in is immense, and it's building up pressure. That makes me think, I wonder if this current initially just went in and didn't really cause a bubble up and just kept flowing in with subtle energies that are undetectable, that have gone unnoticed as they flow into the earth and cause it to expand pressure. And then there's going to be like an earth expansion process where our collective consciousness undergoes an expansion process. Similarly, that where it's reshaped by the currents of like the truth coming to light. Some more like stem cell, like seed, like malleable, changeable, like mantle fluid of truth flowing out, that then over time, as the currents sweep across the earth, reshape into a steady equilibrium, where then like we then have a society that teaches its like offspring the same information that is like the resultant steady state of our understanding from like the currents that flowed from the upwelling of subtle information within the mantle of our, which is basically like the support underlayer. It's just not It's just what's going on that's not being talked about, that's underground. It's pretty much anything that's not like in the popular conversation, like the presidency, the election, the war potentials, all these things going on, the vaccine, COVID, all the topics that are just like sports, like topics that are just topics on the surface. Like that's gonna get resurfaced. Some things are gonna fall into the ocean, really not be things as of just importance as before, etc. Maybe it will just be all love, like one big smiley face. Big old smiley face, if I can scroll out. Just love. Love. Like, here's a heart, maybe. Ish. Okay, so essentially, though, sorry, I got a little distracted there. I was thinking we could make particles somehow by something of that nature. Like, that's probably at least one of the aspects of it is like a currents, polygonal boundaries of currents that somehow maybe we can even direct the currents along walls in some way of some sort of polygonal boundary that just allows the whatever the current is to flow along the wall, and then just essentially, but not such a stable wall as to be like unchangeable, where it can flex out enough to, and where the currents are strong enough to actually create like a large like change where it does like that and ripples out. Or maybe just from a single source meeting a resistance causing it to branch. Maybe something of that nature is going on where there's like one current going this way that's reaching over here, or here, maybe reaching here, and then there's another current going more so this way that maybe like when it hits it branches off a side current and then goes this way down here. This current coming this way to here, and then this going this way to here. Let's see if we can see that motion. Now, this would be moving towards its own way. Oh, did you see that? Did you guys catch that? Oh, so cool. Okay, so I was watching for that. And I think it did, in fact, it has a current going towards it, through it. It's not very detectable in the actual, like, here, but it's more in the way this is separating. Like, initially, this current was coming in here to this, around this point, and it begins to separate, to just spread out and take, like, a shortcut this way. And this current is coming down this way. But then as this one separates, it actually starts to thread through over here, like it reemerges over here. Here it is. Sorry, I was in the wrong position. It's re-emerging over here, and then we see it like come out of here. So it was essentially going to like a point here and then kind of going into there energetically, but then flowing up this way again energetically. But then the waves started to separate, And even like as these are separating down here, this segment and this segment are separating, up here is starting to vibrate. So it's almost like this bond breaks as this current going this way, which also has another current going adjacent, like basically along it. That's probably why there's like two currents here, one going one way, one going the other. Maybe even a hot and cold relatively currents type thing, maybe. Although they're both hot, but maybe just relatively. I'm not sure. But one goes one way, one goes the other, for sure. And as this separates here, let's watch that again a little bit. I want to keep an eye on this one. It looks like it might actually fade out, like it fails and gets filled in. It really does. What we're watching is very representative of this stuff going on here for sure. Like that makes me think of maybe places like this. Like here it actually stayed enough to be detectable like that, but over here it kind of just flowed in, maybe from this side, and then like ramped over the other side, or vice versa from this side, and kind of dripped in, creating a mound on this side to stop it from filling completely. Something we're both in both ways kind of going in, but with a resistance because it compiled along the boundary. But where it filled in relatively. So then the bond just keeps like reforming down here in this segment. Like doesn't need to. It's not fully across there yet. It would be nice. I wish I could just watch this like many minutes of exactly this type of interaction. Maybe I can find this. I'm not sure what kind of lava flow this would be considered to like a specific term to where there's this type of feature. Whoa, it did that. Whoa, it like extended. Once this bubble occurred, this bubble, it like reacts to it. Bubble, boop. Trailing off. So my thoughts are, as with almost very little complexity, is that the waves interacting, going in opposite directions, maybe at different temperatures. So maybe it's possible to like heat a region and cool a region and send a laser through each adjacent to one another. That then that has some actual effect on the outcome. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever. Pardon me. Pardon me, physicists. Hopefully, if you're hearing this, you've heard enough to be like, all right, fine. Even if he's wrong, all right, fine. Kind of thing. That would be super duper. But generally speaking, like they vibrate out of frequency, causing that to occur. And this makes me think of Hawaii. Let's go to Hawaii again, because yesterday I stopped looking at Hawaii when I probably maybe could have looked a little more. Here, this makes me think of here, where where this occurred, kind of thing. with the triple junction too. So there's also maybe another. So it's more in like a segment like. Oh, so this one actually has 5 joints to it, and at least initially, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 also. There's probably something of importance to that as well in terms of just what kind of structure it tends towards, how many inlets, outlets, because they're probably all inlets and outlets. Look, maybe this one is only flowing one direction. It looks way more stable and kind of splits off here and rejoins this one here. Like one's coming in here, one's coming in this way. Or which way? It's going this way. This is going this way. Yeah. This is going that way. Unclear what this is doing without considering its motion and in motion. But that would mean that this is probably going this way and therefore going this way. Which means this is probably going this way. Maybe. Depending on if this is more amplitude. This looks more red than like at its peak, like amount than this. Maybe, I don't know. But Hawaii. So I was kind of thinking Hawaii was kind of like this here. Let's just put that there. There, kind of like this. So kind of like bubbled up. Did one of those kind of things. Of its own scale and magnitude, where it's not identical in appearance, because this is also a supernova. Like it's also radioactive decay, kind of. An excited electron, like all these things are the same mechanism, and it's also just this. So it is, and this. But this is at a boundary between at least three interacting. One here, going this way. One also here. One here, one here, and one here. Where like this is like the really internal part of the boundary of them all here. So this is really like where the two met, which is interesting. So where these two currents meet, they had a bond, which makes sense, that broke, which makes sense based on this kind of thing, due to some general current, like one current's going one way, one's going the other. I think this current's going this way, and this is going this way. I think that they essentially merge here, but they maybe were out of sync initially and vibrate into a balance as they progress down here to then sort of flow out as a more just equilibrium, so it's not as much of a peak after that, where it then kind of goes out there, and it's also not interacting with as much this side of the currents. It's going over here. What exactly is this current? I think this is... I might be mistaken. This might be a current coming from, if I remember right, actually there was a current coming from down by Zealandia this way. Let's go back here. I'm kind of guessing, but it looks like just from here, like right here. This is Australia, Antarctica, and there was a current generally going into here. So I'm kind of thinking as the Earth expanded, it start to actually fully go in like this direction, at maybe 120 degrees. And there I go. Or 90 degrees. Generally over here though, and this left a trail through this way and up this way. that generally goes over here, up this way, and then just essentially interacts with this region to create just this like highs and lows to really uplift the island in the ocean, which maybe is reminiscent of myself out in the ocean. Maybe I'm swimming in the ocean, but I start fucking uplifts at all these currents. There, then boom, fucking got an island, a little volcanic, maybe. a lot of, uh, like imbalances at the boundaries where they don't quite align, that then destabilize the interactions and allow for new upwelling to come, for like new material to fill the region, make it a little more like there was a lack of balance between the inflowing currents, though. Like there was some anomaly that just kind of upwelled a new material to fill it, to create stability, which may be inappropriate if it's like not a valid line of reasoning, but also it appears to be valid. We also see this didn't just happen once. It looks like it happened time and again. It happened again and again, just in this like row. And then smaller down here, even creating like subtle effects here. Through here, and through here, I guess. Through here. Probably to there. It looks like there's like maybe a current like this. One going this way, one going this way, because there's still two currents. It's just like they become very stable in regions adjacent. When it was forming, I mean, it's mostly stabilized now, but it's certainly, there's still a current that's still causing Hawaii to be volcanic. But so I wanted to mention before I forget this: if that is like this, and then here at this polygon's edge is maybe a very small one that instead of going like this goes sideways, like at a sideways angle, so that the eruption is not upward, like these go just up, but maybe the eruption at times can propagate sideways, which is what happened here. And so in order to propagate a current suddenly and spontaneously sideways, it would have to have like a backstop, like this. So we have this right here. That is like a shallogram, that is in a shape that's reminiscent of this, where maybe in some way the energy went more into this polygon. Let's watch this bubble again. If it like sends the material more into this polygon. It certainly influenced this polygon more than the bottom one. Bottom one maintains its boundaries pretty much. It overflows onto the bottom one, but it mostly, the interaction is here. So the reason I'm thinking that is because essentially that it had a feature reminiscent of this feature is kind of suggestive that the energy is propagating in that direction. So anyway, back to this. We have this feature here at the polygonal boundaries, and then we have that feature there that has like a shoot of energy kind of in its general direction. or in this thing's general, in the direction of the polygonal boundary very nearby. And if we watch this current, this thing goes off, and then we already are seeing the current start, and then it propagates generally in this direction. I mean, not exactly at it, but generally in that direction. So maybe it interacts with this, causing that, which then this interacts, or just this general region interacts with this, causing this. Cool. Okay. Let's actually go full screen for Hawaii. Now let's just look around a bit. Now that I've kind of vocalized that. It was a thought I was having. Part of me also doesn't want to heal. Like, I'm afraid to go see what is wrong and deal with it, and would rather just sit here and look at the screen of these cool things like this feature right here. There's an ammonite on its side, even right there. Oh my god, and probably even down here to here. Out even to here. That kind of has a part of its current go up this way, maybe one of these. For sure an ammonite. I gotta take a picture of that. New ammonite. Thanks, Hawaii. Thanks, Hawaii. Where is it? Shalogram right here. Hawaii 2. Let's put it there for now. I really need to go through my files. That looks like maybe the nucleus of one. These all look like in the same way, like the backstop type features. I don't know. They also look related to just the general current downhill, which maybe here, like it had a bunch of current come out here, but it also then just had current go downhill this way. Not as much current, but current, which then just carved it more. Something of that nature. Just starting it. Let's see. High, low. This looks like a wing, like in Gujarat, or in the Deccan Traps. This looks, maybe this is reminiscent of the Deccan Traps. Like the Gulf of Kutch. Where the storm was, maybe. But it had a current. The mantle puncture hole, maybe. Like in terms of equivalence, it's possible. Let's check it out. So I can point out what I mean. This here, this region, the Deccan Traps here, this region of the Deccan Traps, and then Saurashtra with this region right here. So it's highly likely, since this region is there, that there's like there's a current that's flowing this way, like this, creating shallogram-like features, but they're not as defined as shallogram-like features over in Hawaii as they are here. And then there was a storm that was here that was sending a current this way, and it's possible it had, like, it reached up into space and then sent out like tentacles down like to certain locations where the currents were meeting to essentially like not just be a storm in the Deccan Traps region, but also be physically creating like a, a, a vortex here. Or just like that the Earth even was having it probably had a massive, like, just eruption type thing going on in this region initially that maybe got like more stabilized over time, but still like is able to, with subsequent emissions, demonstrate its shape. I don't know when all these occurred and so on. Like these may just be recent flows that just really capture the elevation well, so that it's clear there's like an interior between the current segment here that maybe even extends actually out like this, like more like it's maybe like a big region. But then this would be equivalent to the mantle puncture hole, but showing its face instead of being hidden. Because here it's totally hidden. All we see is sand. All we see is sand. Here we at least see some definition in the terrain. So maybe this generally, in a general sense, like all these currents, in a general sense, where they punctured was on this side, which then upwelled material from this puncture hole over to between the polygonal boundaries, generally speaking, which then actually physically was able to more so flow in this direction. It's like yeah, that makes sense to me, and generally bring the currents over here from here, but then because they brought them over here, they also continued to bring them, especially down this way, more so than down this way and down this way, because there's an actual physical general current this way that then began to create shallogram-like features. So we probably can find them. If I look more closely, I'm sure there's more definition than I realized. Like, where it almost maybe comes to like chakras here. And then the other side is just not as developed. The far side is not as developed here. Sometimes I look and just make sure I'm recording. I'm like, I hope I was recording all that. It's the worst when I realize I was muted for a while, because that's the most likely to happen. But I have talked and not been recording. Although it's maybe in the Akashic records, it probably wasn't that important in some ways. Okay, so if this is reminiscent of, this is a lot like an eddy was formed here that's still structurally visible in the terrain. Here, maybe like a 90-degree angle. It met this current, essentially flowed into this region. Let's say it did this. It flowed to this boundary that was more pushed up this way, like sealed. It was more sealed, where this current was just reaching up here, and they were just up to here to an actual point. This then was punctured in some way to upwell material, to allow for a upwelling of material sufficient so as to flow in this direction to the boundary, and it began to generally, like, that's probably why there's some emissions here, but generally put emissions into here, and then just open up a space more and more and more and more and just widen the polygonal boundary, which would then subsequently solidify and become more just like the rest, like like occurs in these once it starts to like cool and lose its color. It looks more like the rest, which maybe will happen to me soon. Hopefully, that would be nice to start to cool and solidify. Stop having so many currents flow through me. uh, Pardon me for the way I speak about myself, like in those ways that are maybe not becoming of me, in the ways that people. Anyway, before I get into those kinds of things, but it's generally a current like widening this way, and probably maybe just not so much widening, but it also creating just like channels to flow through enough to widening, like widening, but enough, just enough to create channels to continue to flow, and widening. I'm not sure if these are the flow channel here so much as over here, but essentially flowing these ways, and also I guess, but also down here, it looks like it did widen out to here even. Like here. That's right. It went this way and this way, maybe. And here, I'm not sure now. This is almost like a sub. Like it did. Like the current this way went underneath and upwelled again here to go through this region to kind of create a small polygon to separate this chunk here. So it did kind of go over here, it just didn't influence the terrain the same way. And then it upwelled, especially here, and started to channel through more, so I guess the chakra. In this case, it lost energy. It wasn't able to channel through any more than that. Maybe this was happening this whole distance, but it's not as visible as it is at the final result, where maybe chunks of it, like here, I don't know, something, or here, like some chunk got broken off in a similar way as it progressed, like here. But this is just the end result. Let's see, there's probably this, and then it kind of progressed maybe through here, through here, through here. So it follows smaller ones initially, and a bunch of them, just a bunch of them, overlapping little smaller ones to get to this big one, which this also does. It's almost like it goes this far, and then like it's preferentially goes over here and just under the surface. The surface is holding it down, but then it no longer has the overlying surface here, and currents are generally flowing it there so that it upwells from there, from underneath the pressure of just this overlying formation that was solidifying at the time, that's still solidifying deeper down maybe. So maybe it's generally solidifying, and maybe any upwellings will be more like needle threaded upwellings than maybe, because of the reducing currents, which maybe are more yeah, I was gonna say more focused beams, maybe sideways. But this one seems to have gone sideways. I wonder if we can see it in the terrain over here at all. I really don't see it in the terrain, so maybe it quickly went underground. Unless it, maybe here, out to, maybe it influenced this generally. Although that looks like this. So maybe this crossed this current and just brought enough of the current over here to like create some openings for upwelling enough to create detectable features. Just not like lava flows in the same way. Which maybe then, if that's the case, if that's like that, those ones are like that, maybe we can find similar features. See if there's like another one of these type things. They would almost have to cross a current, though. Okay. Whoa, here's another polygon. Just a row out here. So this current that came over here and went here also, again, cut into the polygon a bit to create upwellings. Maybe like out here, how it kind of creates these little like points like there that are just not actually, they're not like splash over, they're physically from currents underneath, just from adjacent interactions. So like this current over came over here and just upwelled here enough to just create those features, but not enough to change it to actually have the magma release. So maybe the same's going on here, where the current upwelled into some like nucleus type thing, whatever particle that was forming at the bond. So this must be like a particle bonded to some other particles energetically, and this particle had an upwelling of energy underneath it that it then deflected outward from itself, away from the polygon, away from this polygon, I guess, towards the other adjacent polygons here. So that the current really didn't upwell that much here either, it seems. Like there's not, it's just a bunch of features that look a lot like just a big one of these things. A fractal version, where that's not really what's going on here or here. So it's probably related, I would suggest. Maybe we can see similar features around the rest of the Hawaiian islands. Whoa. Definitely some currents upwelling here that just didn't puncture through, or I guess they did, and they're just not anymore. Essentially, this is probably all recent lava flows, I'm guessing. Pardon me if they're not. I know I should be more aware of current events. I know there's some like less than optimal things that could be going on there. But here's another like nucleus center mission point. This looks a lot like Tahiti, but like still connected. Nice. Certainly would be suggestive of something. I don't want to go too far from the main island. I just figured I should for a moment just glance at these. This one's got an X marks to the spot. How do I not look at that? It's got a little animal like a giraffe. It's got a giraffe. Whoa, it's got a giraffe. And then over here, it's got like a, what is it called? Stegosaurus? The one with the spine? Yeah, something like that. It's got like a Stegosaurus. Wow. Giraffe Stegosaurus. Menorah. This looks almost like one of those wings, but like that broke off. Maybe it broke off right here. I gotta go pretty soon. Aunt and uncle should be here in the near future. Nearish enough where I should be not just doing this. Okay. Um, a tab. Certainly things going on here. I just haven't looked enough at these to have much to say. I'm just kind of glancing at them. Okay. Okay. What else? Looks like this current actually bowed out. This is very reminiscent, actually, of here. It probably would be better if I pulled up my drawings, but generally the current coming across here, running into the current coming down here. I don't have it up. Where is it? Pacific Ocean? No. Maybe in here. Earth currents. One of these. Let's go through until I find it. Not that one, but there's a current coming across here from the mantle puncture hole that then enters in underneath North America. And that previous one was under Europe. Under North America now. And it collides with this one and it bows out this region. So here, versus here as well. Like it's a colliding current that's bowing out this region, although this side is not quite the same. It's just the current's more coming, it's more complex than that, but it's generally speaking, it's bowing out this side. And the current, I believe the current's more going this way actually, here. And then this is getting bowed out by like a back current that's actually going like that. So it's really a current that's coming across this way. That is then having a bowed out like a lens. So there's a current coming across this way and this way then, in that case. And this is like Mexico, where there is maybe here. Basically this section. And then the section that like got filled with newly formed ocean bed basically is equivalent to the internal part of Hawaii's this region. It just wasn't able to actually like push the island into different chunks. Like it probably was at different times, like back here, like there was a polygons forming and then like an upwelling occurred that just shoved the chunk off, like instead of them staying bonded. Here the bonds start to break, but they don't fully break, so it's still bonded. They really don't break over here. They just kind of have currents flow along them enough to like show that they're there. And they do, like, this is probably a bond breaking, bonds breaking. This is like the start of an eddy where a bond was breaking probably. But underneath, that was causing a depression overall in the surface of the surface elevation. And then just kind of going this way, but it just wasn't enough to sever the island into different polygonal chunks so that it had like a divide between the polygonal chunks. And so there it is as Hawaii with a current generally going this way and a current generally going this way. That maybe just that's like the majority of it, and the other one going this way. I'm not sure if it's even necessary. This is almost like down the coastline of South America. then the buttons start popping here like this. Is almost like here. And then like wrapping around. Or maybe like this even. And then over this way. Something of that nature where the buttons popped along it and then they popped along in a way to create South America, but like generally like that. Where there was a severing from a current that was running into like Papua New Guinea and South America or Australia, or maybe like Papua New Guinea, Australia, Antarctica, and then South America. And the current running into it essentially divided up the west coast of North America and went this way a lot. In the equivalent circumstance, it went up that way a lot, up the west coast, and just opened up the Pacific initially in that area. But then it also was causing a like more focused currents over this way into like South America. That's then in this region, at least. But like focusing currents into it. To then physically cause bond breakage along its boundary and form its boundary. Until, just like these islands, the continents were actually caused to separate enough. But this is just, it didn't happen. It wasn't, the Earth was no longer expanding, so these currents were no longer flowing. Essentially, like, when was the main island of Hawaii formed? Basically, as descent began forming when the Earth started to expand. Once the Earth started to expand, the island of Hawaii the chain started to form, which left behind the older chunks as the current fed into the newer systems, and the older chunks were then broken off along the way over here, just leaving behind this wherever exactly like the process of the Earth's expanding maybe here began, maybe around here like it jumped over, and these were like the things it was initially leaving behind, and also vibratorily in some way that then left like that and this. But then it continues more along this stable one, seemingly leaving behind larger and larger chunks that are more able to be above the surface, because it's not just the surface stuff, it's all that's below it that really supports it, that's necessary for it to be an island, and not just below the surface. So it just keeps building up larger chunks until it essentially starts to approximately reach present day, the final, where the Earth like is no longer expanding. So as it's expanding, like the position where these currents overlap is just pretty much moving. And then as it stops expanding, it like stabilizes. The currents are still flowing enough to essentially form the main island of Hawaii at a greater total mass body than the other islands. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about that, generally speaking. What else can we see here? Like maybe that is a polygonal boundary breaking, like it was attached to some other part, like over here somewhere it was attached to something, and it just, are these able to be just pieced together. So like this formed adjacent to that, to formed adjacent to that kind of thing. Whereas all forming kind of as one and just leaving chunks behind. I don't think it was formed simultaneously enough, but maybe. Because it all is relatively in a short period of time, not millions of years. It really is a short period of time when this is taking to occur. Before present hasn't been that long, so maybe it did have the capacity to largely form stably as one unit and then like largely break up into its components before the one unit was mostly formed. I don't know. It seems like it just left a trail, so and they formed as it moved. So that doesn't really make as much sense as that it just formed as it moved. But maybe these ones have some adjacent relationships where like essentially the top, like there was some nucleus at the top that just kept breaking apart and having new underlayers forming that then like the top nucleus floated on away from. But if we could just like put the absolute nucleus of the top, so really without even considering like the seamounts that much, really just the above surface regions, maybe they really overlay one another. Like this little notch looks a lot like that little notch. Does it like geographically, like this segment extend out like from here, etc., like that kind of thing? And maybe maybe that'd be real interesting to try to Photoshop these together in a way and move them around and see what happens. Maybe I'll do that. Am I done talking about this? I think that's pretty good to maybe stop here. Definitely some progress on everything, including Hawaii, but this, like, it definitely is representative of other things, like the, just the overall Earth expansion process and the collision of a current with another current and creating an inward eddy that's like builds a mass over here, maybe that's what happens, like the collision of this current with this current produces two eddies, one here that's like a negative that just produces a void that allows for material to upwell through, and then one eddy over here that's like a taking the whatever it's bringing from here is kind of bring in equal opposition it's putting over there and filling this region with this like mound that in effect just encourages material that way over time to a point where then it produces even more of just that type of shape that occurred, where then there's this like beam shooting this way. So maybe that's what happens, like two currents collide, then eddies start to form adjacent to one another, and as the eddies get stronger, then the one eddy, the positive eddy, is pushing subtle energy into the negative eddy, which then becomes more beam-like and focused, which then flows through and just carves this polygonal boundary. I'm sure there's chemistry things that can be like okay, my phone's ringing, so I'll be back. See you guys soon.